When Alex Collins woke up, the first thing he saw was his best friend and roommate, Tyler Smith, reading the final draft of the paper Alex had worked on late into the night. Seeing Alex was awake, Tyler put the paper down. "That's a solid piece. Short, clear, and well written. Honestly, ever since that spell turned all the guys here into girls, I've thought you write better as Alexandria than as Alex." Alex grumbled, "I can't believe it." "Believe what?" Tyler asked. "That campus cop last night. Officer Potter, the one who thinks he's irresistible to women," Alex said. "I stayed in to finish a report, but when I tried to print, my ink cartridge was empty. I had to go to the mall to buy a new one. Coming back, there was no traffic, so I crossed against the light, and that cop stopped me. Then he gave me a ticket for jaywalking." Tyler shrugged. "So pay the fine, problem solved." Alex shook his head. "He tried hitting on me first. He wasn't even going to write the ticket until I turned him down. I told him I'm not that kind of girl. He said all girls are like that. How do real girls deal with jerks like him? I'm glad I'm not a girl all the time. Like I said, just pay the fine. Nobody cares if it's Alexandria on the ticket. Once they get their money, it's done." Alex frowned. "I don't think it'll be that simple. Potter said if I skip court, he'll come after me, and then he threatened to arrest me for prostitution." Tyler rolled his eyes. "What a prize. Guys like him make things hard for everyone else. Just avoid the frat house after 7 p.m. Then you won't turn into Alexandria and Potter can't find you. That might mess things up for the Sigma Beta Beta girls." "Why?" "Potter made me tell him where I live. I couldn't say the frat house since I was a girl last night, so I named the first sorority I could think of." "That's not good," Tyler said. "What should I do?" "Got any ideas?" "No clue yet, but we'll figure something out." Frat President Tim Geller called the meeting to order. The brothers sat while pledges stood against the walls. "Welcome back, brothers, and welcome to our new pledges." Murmurs greeted the brothers, the pledges were silent. After some thought, the council decided that any pledge who gathers info on the Sigma Beta Beta sorority's pledge activities will earn full brotherhood, and won't have to do other pledge tasks. The room buzzed with mixed reactions. "But it won't be easy. Any volunteers?" The pledges stayed quiet. "Surely one of you has the guts. Remember, boys, you're just girls under the spell. More attractive, sure, but still just girls." Mark Jordan cleared his throat and raised his hand. "Pledge Jordan, volunteering?" "Yes, sir. Steve and I will take this on for the fraternity." Steve nudged Mark. "What are you doing?" "Trust me, it's a sure thing." "Is that true, Wilson?" Tim asked. "Yeah, I guess. Mark and I volunteered to uncover what Sigma Beta Beta does at their pledge party." "Good," said Tim. "Their party's at the end of the week. Find out what goes on and you're in. Fail, and you're out." Mark and Steve answered, "Understood. We'll find out what we need." "One more thing," Tim added. "Their party is for their pledges only. You have to be pledging their sorority to get in." "But we're boys, not girls," Steve said. "Even in dresses, we won't pass." "That's for you to figure out. It's a test of your creativity and determination. You've got until the end of the week." Dismissed. Tyler looked at Alex. "That's a tough job." "Yeah. Wonder how they'll pull it off." "We could tell them about the wizard at the mall," Tyler suggested. "I'm not sure that's a great idea. But maybe we should check with them before the Sigma Beta Beta party." "What were you thinking volunteering us for this, Mark?" "Relax, Steve. I know exactly what I'm doing." Steve looked at his friend with concern. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Rumor has it the Sigma Beta Beta house mom is some kind of witch. You know how much witches freak me out. Mark laughed. Come on, Steve. How could old lady Hale be a witch? She's probably just a sweet old lady who pissed someone off, and now there's a nasty rumor spreading. There's definitely something unnatural going on, Steve replied. Just think about all those stunning women living there. I'm thinking, believe me, Mark said with a grin. I've got an idea for you, Alex, Tyler said. Tim's plan gave me a thought. What is it? Simple. Just move into Sigma Beta Beta until your court hearing is over. I can't do that, I'm a guy, Alex said. Remember? I know, Tyler said. But you can move in as Alexandria. That won't work. The spell only makes me Alexandria from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. The rest of the time I'm me. I'm not staying out late just to avoid some cop. You don't have to, Tyler smiled. We can go to the mall and have the old man make the transformation permanent until after your hearing. Alex hesitated. I'm not sure about that. Every time we deal with that old guy, things go sideways. Yeah, but there aren't many other options, Tyler said. He seems like the best shot. Alex sighed. Unfortunately, I agree, and that scares me. But even as Alexandria, how do I get into Sigma Beta Beta? No problem there. I called Dee Dee. She has an extra bed and said she'd put Alexandria up for a few days. Alex groaned. Great. Your girlfriend hates me, or rather, Alexandria. She's insanely jealous of Alexandria or any girl who looks at you sideways. Remember those love pills you took when she was Denise? Alexandria still has feelings for you because of them. Maybe the old man can reverse that. Can't hurt to ask, Tyler shrugged. Alex sighed again, worried about what he was getting into. Mark, I still can't believe you volunteered us to crash the Sigma's pledge party, Steve said after they returned to his dorm. It's impossible. Come on, Steve. It's easy, Mark said. We just find out what their pledges have to do, and we're in. Yeah, and if we don't, we're out. You worry too much. We'll pull it off. How? Tim said it's a girls-only party. No way we fool anyone. Mark smiled. You're missing the point. When we go, we won't be two boys crashing a party. We'll be prospective sisters arriving for our pledge party. Steve stared. No way. Even with makeup and costumes, we'd look like guys in drag. We won't need heavy makeup, Mark said. We're not just dressing like girls, we're going to become girls, head to toe, anatomically correct. Steve looked nervous. What are you talking about? Magic. Witchcraft. Gypsy spells, Mark said. There's no such thing. That's what I thought, until last week. I met an old gypsy in the old part of town. He knew about the frats plan and said you and I would be the ones to succeed. Steve shook his head. You're gullible. I bet he sold you some potion to turn us into girls. How much did it cost? Nothing. He gave me this old book, Mark said. It's full of transformation spells. One changes a boy into a girl, another changes a girl back to a boy. Just what we need. You're serious? Totally. The book's in my room down the hall. Want to take a look? As they had before, Tyler and Alex stood outside the old man's shop. Though the little shop sometimes seemed to move, today it appeared exactly where it always had been. Alex, resigned to whatever fate awaited, stared at the door. Well, if we're going in, Tyler, we might as well go in now. Otherwise, the old man'll come out and say we're late. They stepped inside. The bell tinkled overhead, announcing their arrival in the empty shop. Soon, the wizard emerged from the back storage room. Tyler. Alex. Good to see you again, the old man said, glancing at the sundial on the shaded wall. Right on time too. It's nice to see punctual youth. So, can you do it? Alex asked, anxious. Do what, Alex? I was just trying to save time. You've always known what we needed before we even asked. Sometimes even before you knew yourselves, Tyler added. Oh, that, said the old man. Of course I can make Alex into Alexandria full-time until after the court business. But beware, when Alexandria is your true form, you'll be subject to the spell's unpredictable effects, just like any other girl. That should be okay, Alex said. Since I won't be staying at the frat house, I shouldn't have to worry. Tyler glanced at Alex. Are you going to ask about? No need, the old man interrupted. Unless Alex wants otherwise, and I doubt that, since Danny would probably kill anyone she saw as a threat to her relationship with Tyler, I'll cancel out the remaining effects of that love pill you took near Alex. It would have faded in a couple months anyway. The effects are strong, but not permanent. They would have faded? Tyler asked, concerned. What about? Don't worry about Danny, the wizard said. Since she was created from Denise under the pill's influence, her love for you is now part of her being, permanent. In other words, Tyler, you're stuck with her forever. Tyler smiled, though he wasn't sure he'd describe his relationship that way, especially if Danny ever found out. Can we focus on me now? Alex asked. Patience, the old man said. Strange things are happening, so I'm adding some special protections and anti-magical detection to your transformation. You won't notice. He snapped his fingers. Now, look in the mirror, Alexandria, and tell me what you see. What? Alexandria asked in her fully feminine voice. Though the change hadn't been immediate, she now clearly was female. She sashayed to the mirror and studied her reflection. Her silky auburn hair flowed to the middle of her back. Her waist narrowed, her hips were wide enough to hold books. She wore a very short skirt, showing off smooth, long legs. Open-toed shoes with low heels adorned her feet. Her plunging blouse revealed generous cleavage, emphasizing her full, round chests. How did you do that so fast? Alexandria asked. I've always done instant transformations, the old man said casually. Usually, I like to take my time, but today I'm rushed. I'm looking for a friend who recently disappeared. But you know everything, Alexandria said, with Tyler nodding. So did I, he said solemnly. Did you get all the clothes you needed? Mark asked. Yeah, Steve replied, holding up a bag. But I'm going to look ridiculous in these. You won't look ridiculous long. Once I read the spell and turn you into a girl, you'll fit right in. Are you sure you want to do this? Dorm life isn't so bad, co-ed floors, even. Don't chicken out now, Mark said. Would you rather live here or be in a frat? Man up, Steve. Okay, frat it is, Steve sighed. Who goes first? Since it was my idea, you'll be first. That way, you'll see what happens. Great, Steve groaned. As Mark changed, Steve followed the book's instructions, drew a chalk circle, then a pentagram inside. Mark dressed in a short skirt and sandals, holding up his sister's 34B bra. She's got the biggest chests in the family, he said, fastening it. I'm ready, Mark said. You look ridiculous, Steve said. Let's do it. Mark stepped into the pentagram. Here goes. He read aloud. Within and without. Let there be no doubt. Form and thought once male. Now become female. Stupid rhyme, Steve muttered. But inside the pentagram, Mark began to change. His dark hair grew long, falling over his shoulders. He shrank 6 inches. His chest filled out the bra, pushing against his sweater. Slender legs extended from his skirt, and his toenails were painted bright pink beneath his sandals. Steve stared in disbelief at the figure standing within the pentagram. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Of course I'm okay," his friend replied in a new soprano voice. "Why wouldn't I be? But you're a girl now." "Exactly, that was the point of the spell you cast on me, wasn't it? But don't worry, Steve. I'm still me." She smiled warmly. "Look at me, I may look different, but deep down, I'm still your best friend, Marcus Lynn Jordan." Steve gave her a puzzled look. "Marcus?" "Yes, Steve," she said. "Is something wrong?" "I don't know, maybe not. It's just, I can't get over how much prettier you are now." Marcus frowned. "I guess that's supposed to be a compliment. It might have worked if I hadn't been Mark before and known you say that to every pretty girl you try to flirt with." She glanced at Steve. "If we both want to get into Sigma's pledge party, we'd better get you changed into a girl, too." "I suppose," Steve sighed. "If I have to." He pulled clothes from his bag. Marcus smiled at his embarrassment, holding the frilly lace panties and large bra. "It says 38DD on the tag," he said when she noticed. After undressing, Steve slid into the panties and fastened the bra. Then he pulled a one-piece dress over his head. The tight dress reached just above his knees. Marcus laughed. "And you thought I looked funny? Hey, I can't help it if all my sisters are tall, skinny, and well-endowed," Steve shot back. "All right, Steve. Let's get this over with," Marcus said, stifling laughter. "Now stand in the pentagram, and don't step outside the lines." Steve stepped inside. Marcus began the spell. "Within and without. Let there be no doubt. Form and thoughts once male. Now become female." "That is one dumb rhyme," Marcus said. "Maybe it lost something in translation." Steve's body started to change. The dress that had been tight now hung loosely on a slightly taller, more feminine frame. His stringy light brown hair grew quickly to the middle of his back. His chest swelled until they filled the bra. Marcus stared at the tall, slim girl with the ample chest standing in the pentagram. "You all right?" "I'm fine, Marcus. There's something about this body that feels right," her friend said. "But deep down, I know who I am. I wouldn't want to be anyone else but your best friend, Stella and Wilson." "I know exactly what you mean, Stella," Marcus said. "We've been best friends since we were kids. Now we're pledging the same sorority, ready to tell our brothers and pledges all about our party." Outside the Sigma Beta Beta sorority house, Alexandria and Tyler stood together. "I don't like this," Alexandria said. "I'm sure your girlfriend's going to try to hurt me." "Relax, Alexandria. Everything will be fine," Tyler assured her. "Danny knows you're only staying a couple of days." She agreed to put aside her feelings. "How comforting," Alexandria snapped. "Is she going to stab me in the back instead?" "That's enough, Alexandria," Tyler scolded. "If she really wanted to hurt you, she wouldn't have convinced the others to let you stay." Alexandria looked down. "I know." They approached the door. CJ Geller, a Sigma Beta Beta cheerleader, answered Tyler's knock. "Hi, Tyler." She looked at Alexandria. "You must be Alexandria. I think I saw you at the Lambda party." Turning to another girl inside, she said, "Sam, get Danny. Tell her guests are here." She smiled at them. "I get why Dee might be jealous of you, Alexandria. We should have some girl talk later." Then she walked away. "She's strange," Alexandria muttered. "And I still don't like this." "Relax, Alexandria. How many times do I have to say it'll be fine?" Just then Danny came down the stairs. She kissed Tyler warmly. "Hi, lover." Then, unseen by Tyler, she shot Alexandria a cold glare. "Hello, Alexandria," she said in a tone that could have been mistaken for "hello, trouble." "Hi, Danny," Alexandria replied politely. "Thanks for letting me stay on such short notice." "I'm doing this for Tyler," Danny said. "I'd do anything for him." Alexandria looked at Tyler, silently pleading for help. "You'll stay in my room tonight," Danny explained. "Tyler probably told you I have an extra bed. Some of the girls are having a slumber party, and you're invited. We want to get to know you better." She looked at Tyler. "Don't worry about her, lover. We'll take good care of Alexandria. I'll see you in class tomorrow." She blew him a kiss. Tyler smiled, wishing he were spending the night with Danny, then remembered she wasn't fond of his alter ego Terry either. "Okay, Danny." He gave Alexandria a thumbs up and left. But Alexandria wasn't convinced she'd make it through the night as Danny led her inside. Marcus and Stella knocked on the sorority door. Instantly, they both recognized the girl who answered, Samantha Johnson, someone they'd both had crushes on since first seeing her. "Yes?" Sam said. "Can I help you?" "We're here to pledge the sorority," Samantha, Marcus said. "Is there still time to sign up?" Stella asked. "We wouldn't want to miss the party at the end of the week." "I guess we can still take new pledges," Sam replied, quickly assessing them. "Stella, you might have potential with some work. We could help you develop a nicer figure. But you," she said, turning to Marcus, "you're going to be a major project." "Thanks," Marcus replied with a grimace. Then Charlotte Morgan joined them at the door. "But Sam," she said, "we're still one pledge short." "I know, Charlie," Sam answered. "But I'm not sure about these two." "Why not?" Marcus and Stella asked, eager. "We just want to go to the party." Unnoticed by the hopeful girls, Charlie smiled at Sam. "Don't you think we should let them pledge, Sam?" she asked, winking. "I suppose we could," Sam said. "If we do, the other sisters will get to approve or reject them as full members." "Oh, thank you," the girls exclaimed, thrilled. "I can imagine," Sam said. "Give me your names," Charlie said, pulling out a small notepad. "Okay." Marcus Jordan, Charlie wrote. "Stella Wilson," she added. "All right, Stella, almost done," Charlie said. "I'll sponsor your admission." "I'm Charlotte Morgan, but everyone calls me Charlie." "That's cool, Charlie," Stella said. "And I'll sponsor you, Marcus," Sam said. "I'm Samantha Johnson, but friends call me Sam." "Thanks, Sam," Marcus said excitedly. Charlie handed them each a special invitation to the pledge party. "Bring these with you. Without one, you won't be allowed in." "We'll see you then," they said as Sam closed the door. "Well, Stell, we're in," Marcus grinned. "Easier than I thought." "Yeah, but I have a weird feeling it was too easy," Stella frowned. "What's bothering you?" "It's those two, Sam and Charlie," she said. "They seemed so sexy. And they're so big." She struggled to explain. "Talking to them made me jealous and kinda inadequate." "Didn't you feel that?" "Next to them, you look like a boy." Marcus studied her friend. "You know what, Stella? You're weird. I am a boy, just like you. No reason to be jealous or insecure about girls with bigger chests than mine." She cupped one of her 34B chests. "Though, I'd admit, it'd be nice if mine were a bit bigger." "Do you think it was them, Charlie?" "I don't think so, Sam. We were told some boys might try to get invites to our party. Those two looked like girls, though not exactly beauties, and probably won't last long at the party." "I agree," Sam said. "But Mrs. Hale told us to invite anyone who asked." "And they did ask." "True," Charlie said. But unless those two are makeup experts, which they don't seem to be, they're probably not the guys the house mom warned us about. Sam grinned at a thought. Maybe they magically transformed into girls to sneak in. You're reading too much fantasy again, Charlie laughed. But if magic's real, maybe boys could become girls. Still, that's too wild for me. Yeah, it sounds crazy said out loud. Besides, if they really were boys, wouldn't they make themselves look more like us? Those two will stick out like sore thumbs. Spies don't want to stand out. That's the best point yet, Sam smiled. If they could transform, why choose to look so obvious? Sam and Charlie laughed at the idea of two boys wanting to look like those girls. When Marcus and Stella returned to their dorm, they accidentally got off the elevator on the 4th floor instead of the 5th. They didn't notice that their floor was now filled entirely with other girls. Once inside Marcus's room, she turned to Stella with a wide grin. We did it, Stell. Didn't I say it would be easy to get invited? You did, Stella replied. But I'm surprised they didn't realize we were really boys. She smiled, noticing many attractive girls on the floor. I wonder if any of them are boys pledging fraternities like us. No idea, Marcus said. But we're almost in, and that's what matters. She unbuttoned her blouse and stood before the mirror. After unfastening her bra, she frowned at her small chests. You know, Stell? I wish I'd stolen a bra from your sister instead of mine. Alexandria stood nervously before the mirror in Danny's room. She wore a revealing teddy that Danny had casually pulled from her dresser and tossed to her without checking the size. At first, Alexandria doubted it would fit, but somehow it clung perfectly, as if made just for her. Considering how different she was from Danny, it seemed strange that her host had something that fit her so well. Told you it'd fit, Danny said, dressed the same way. There was a knock at the door, which swung open to admit Randy and Leanne, Melina and Calandra, Samantha and Charlotte, Stacy Minwell, and C.J. Giller. All 8 wore matching teddies like Alexandria and Danny. I said we'd have a little slumber party, Danny said. And you're the guest of honor. We want you to feel right at home, Alexandria. Alexandria noticed an old woman step inside. Her snow-white hair was whiter than anything Alexandria had seen, and though ancient, the woman walked with a slight stoop. She wore a robe so loose it was impossible to tell if she wore anything underneath. This is Ms. Helgard, Danny explained. She helps us with things around here now and then. Pleased to meet you, Ms. Helgard, Alexandria said. Of that, young lady, I'm quite certain, the old woman replied in a thick accent like gypsies in old films. Are you ready, my dears? All the girls except Alexandria answered immediately, yes. Alexandria looked puzzled. Ready? Ready for what? Just a little game some of us like to play with new sisters, Ms. Helgard said. It requires imagination. Do you have imagination, Alexandria? I believe so, Alexandria answered. Good. Then we shall begin, the ancient woman said. Alexandria, stand before the full-length mirror. I'll ask the others about you, and you must imagine whatever they say is true. Understand? I think so, Alexandria replied, thinking the game was strange and the old woman should be locked away. Randy, Ms. Helgard began. If you could change something about Alexandria, what would it be? I'd give her a thinner waist, Randy said. Alexandria smirked but then felt a tingling around her waist. Though the teddy stayed tight, she could swear her waist had narrowed. How about you, Leanne? I'd make her hips wider, Leanne said. You know how much guys like sexy, swaying hips. The tingling returned, focused on her hips. Alexandria told herself they couldn't really be growing. If they were, the teddy wouldn't fit so perfectly. Melina? A tight, firm ass, Melina smiled. One every guy would want to get a good look at. Another tingling spread, but still, the teddy fit as before. Alexandria started to think her imagination was playing tricks. And you, Calandra? Make her taller, Calandra said. At least 5 feet 11 inches, but keep her weight the same. Alexandria watched as her reflection grew taller, her legs and arms slender and lengthened. Her weight shifted, shaping sexy, feminine curves. Samantha? The old woman asked. What would you change? Give her chests as big as mine and Charlie's, Samantha replied with a smile. Alexandria felt the tingling build in her chest, then her chest began to swell, pushing against the teddy until the fabric reshaped itself perfectly around her new form. And Charlotte? What about you? Dark red hair, Charlotte said. Long enough to cover that tight ass of hers. Alexandria's reflection shocked her as her hair lengthened and deepened to a rich red. Her auburn hair was gone, she was sure of that now. As her hair reached the top of her ass, she realized this wasn't just a game of imagination. It was real. She had to fight it. Your turn, CJ, said the old woman. I'm sure our guest is tired of being mistaken for Alexandria Collins, CJ said. She probably knows she doesn't look like her anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't even remember who Alexandria Collins is. Suddenly Alexandria felt her face tingle as it seemed to mold and reshape like soft clay. She knew she had to resist or be lost forever. But looking into the mirror, she gasped in shock. She no longer recognized the face before her. Worse, she didn't know who she was anymore. Our guest looks like Holly Lochner, CJ said. Don't you all agree? All the girls nodded. And that must be because she is Holly Lochner, CJ concluded. Suddenly, Holly's confusion vanished. She saw herself clearly in the mirror and knew she was Holly Lochner, proud sister of Sigma Beta Beta. She was the same person she had always been. Stacy, the gypsy woman asked. I'd make her assistant to the head cheerleader, Stacy replied, herself the head cheerleader. But you already have an assistant, Stacy, Randy pointed out. What about Susie? I've been looking for a reason to ditch Susie for a while, Stacy said. Susie isn't one of our sisters, and Holly is. Besides, Susie once hurt another sister. She'll settle into just being another cheerleader. And finally, Danny, the woman prompted. I think Holly needs her own boyfriend, Danny said with a smile. Lori Miller would be perfect. But Danny, Calandra objected, Lori already has a girlfriend. Lynette won't be happy to lose him. Danny grinned. Lynette's never without a boyfriend for long. This month it's Lori, last month a wrestler, before that a basketball player, and a nerdy guy named Melville before that. They'll manage when Lori and Holly are together. And Holly won't be interested in Tyler Smith at all, Danny continued. She'll be too focused on keeping Lori happy. And next time they're together, there'll be a pregnancy. The other girls gasped collectively. Now close your eyes, Holly, Ms. Helgard commanded. Holly obeyed. As they said, so shall you be. You'll feel wonderful but sleepy. Tomorrow, you'll feel and act as the sexy woman you are. You may open your eyes now. Holly opened them, feeling perfectly natural, unaware of ever being anyone but herself. Ms. Helgard turned to leave. You no longer need me. She faced Danny. What you wanted has come to pass. Thank you, Ms. Helgard, Danny said with a smile as the old woman exited. Using her vast knowledge, she had removed Alexandria Collins as a rival for Tyler's affections. Holly yawned. I'm going to my room, Danny, she said sleepily. I'm very tired. She turned and walked gracefully down the hall. One by one, the other girls, who had only existed in dreams, faded away, leaving Danny alone. A cruel smile spread across Danny's face. That'll teach you, Alexandria Collins, not to mess with my man. By tomorrow, no one but me will remember anyone named Alexandria Collins. I hope, as Holly, you'll be happy raising at least one of Lori Miller's children. As Ms. Helgard left the sorority, she began to change. Her stooped walk straightened, and her snowy white hair shimmered golden. Her ancient appearance melted away, revealing a young woman, barely out of her teens, more developed than most girls inside Sigma Beta Beta. She smiled, imagining the surprise her friends would feel if they saw her now, an alluring young woman sure to inspire desire in any man. But they would never understand her needs. Right now, she craved fun on her own terms, and this form guaranteed that. Still, she needed time to relax before resuming her duties. She was certain that would come soon. Her thoughts broke as a male voice called behind her. "Excuse me, miss. May I see some ID?" She turned. "Of course, officer," she said seductively, opening her bag. "Is something wrong?" "You are inside the house?" the officer asked. "Yes," she replied. "Was there Alexandria Collins inside?" "There was when I arrived," she said. "But she's gone now and won't be back." She handed over her ID. "Was she expecting you?" "You could say that," the officer said. "I'm Officer Potter of Campus Security. I told her I'd check in from time to time. I caught her jaywalking and gave her a ticket requiring a court appearance. But I also gave her a way out. Seems she'd rather be a fugitive." He examined her ID closely. "She didn't mention any trouble," the woman said. Officer Potter frowned. "This can't be your real ID if your name is Helgard. There's no way you're this old." "Thank you, Officer Potter," she purred. "But you should look again." He glanced once more and was surprised by her age. Must have been the light. "Nothing wrong here." He handed it back. "Thank you, Officer Potter," she said, her tone sensual enough to catch his attention. "Call me Hilda." The officer appraised her openly, surprised she let him. "Okay, Hilda. My friends call me Pete." "Pete," she purred, running her fingers through his thinning red hair. "If one of my sisters is in trouble with the law, maybe I could help. Would that be all right?" She smiled, leaving no doubt about her intent. "Wouldn't you agree, Petey, dear?" "Would I ever?" Pete exclaimed. "I knew I'd get lucky hanging around here. When one of you gets into trouble, there's always another of you bitches." "Bitches?" Hilda asked coldly. "I didn't mean anything by that, Hilda." "No, I'm sure you didn't," she replied even colder. "I'm not in that mood anymore, Petey." She smiled coolly. "But I am in the mood for some fun." With a flick of her wrist, Officer Potter suddenly found himself no longer wearing his uniform. "What?" he exclaimed, noticing his nudity. "You won't be needing that uniform anymore, Petey," she said, flicking her wrist again. "But I'll give you a nice new coat to keep you warm at night." His thin red hair began to thicken, growing longer until it covered his entire body like a luxurious red coat. Officer Potter ran his hands over his hairy body. "What's going on, Hilda?" he asked, alarmed. "This isn't legal. I order you to stop this madness immediately." Hilda laughed. You presume to order me? I'll have to change that." She stared at Pete, then snapped her fingers. His face began to rearrange, forming a muzzle as his mouth stretched out. His teeth grew longer and sharper. He tried to protest, but only a quiet whimper escaped. "That's much better," Ms. Helgard said. "Now, you may speak only when spoken to, Petey." She smiled at his discomfort behind his enlarged brown eyes. "It's unnatural for someone like you to be bipedal." Passing her hand over his forehead, Officer Potter collapsed onto all fours. His body contorted, his hands turned into forepaws, and his arms became canine forelegs. Panting heavily, tongue lolling, he realized he had transformed into a dog. "Now that's even better, Petey," Hilda remarked. "It's a shame you can't see what a gorgeous Irish setter you've become." She smiled at her work as the dog growled at her. "In a bad mood, huh?" she laughed, scratching him under the chin. One last change, sweet Petey. Then we'll see how lucky you are hanging around here, especially now that you've joined the ranks of the bitches. When Holly woke the next morning, she felt incredibly sexy, still flushed from the sizzling dreams she'd had all night. Lori was such a hunk, she thought, a wicked grin spreading across her face. Still in her borrowed teddy, she rose and walked to the mirror. You're just so amazingly sexy, she told her reflection, striking a seductive pose and running her hand through her luxurious red hair. She slipped out of the teddy, letting it fall to the floor, and stared at her large, firm chest and waspish waist. Suddenly, her smile faded into a worried frown. Something's not right, she whispered to her reflection. But what? Everything feels as it always has. She cupped one ample chest. Still, I have this odd feeling that things aren't the same anymore. Shaking her head to clear confusion, she felt her hair swish across her back. I am Holly Lochner, she declared to the mirror. Then added quickly, aren't I? I remember being me, not someone else. She spotted a picture of herself and Lori on her dresser. Picking it up eased her doubt, anchoring her to who she really was. It might be your lucky night, lover, she told the photo. You're the absolute best. Her frown returned. She dated others before Lori, so why couldn't she recall their names? A knock came at the door. Yes? Holly answered absently. Stacy Minwell peeked inside. Don't forget cheer practice this afternoon, Holly. She smiled at Holly's unclothed reflection. You know, Holly, I bet there are plenty of guys on campus who'd love to see you just like this. Make sure you wear your uniform today. Of course, Stacy, Holly replied. I never miss practice. Then she blushed, realizing Stacy was teasing. Besides, Lori's the only guy who gets to see me this way. Of course, Holly, Stacy smiled, then closed the door behind her. Holly playfully strutted to her closet and pulled out her uniform. She smiled at the name Holly embroidered in frilly script on the left shoulder. This proves it, she said. I must be Holly, just like I remember, because if I weren't, why would I have this uniform with my name on it? She quickly dressed, the uniform fitting perfectly, confirming it was hers. After slipping on white socks and tennis shoes, she sat at her dresser, as she often had before, and applied light makeup. Finished, she smiled at her reflection. She looked good. But now it was time for her first class. Somehow, she knew she couldn't be late today, but oddly, she wasn't sure where her first class was or why it felt strange for her, a full-time student, to attend classes at all. As she bounced down the stairs, Holly decided not to dwell on the strange feelings that had been nagging her since waking. She figured she'd have plenty of time to sort them out later, or maybe they'd simply fade away on their own. Good morning, sleepyhead, Danny greeted as Holly approached. I was starting to wonder if you'd get out of bed before the term ended. Morning, Danny, Holly replied. I must have been really tired last night, I don't remember much. And for some reason, I'm still a bit foggy this morning. Danny smiled. We didn't do much last night. You went to bed early, said you weren't feeling well. I gave you some aspirin, then you passed out. That morning fog should clear soon. I hope so. Ready for our first class? Of course, Holly said, relieved to learn she and Danny had the same first class. Danny probably knew where to go. Everything was going smoothly, Danny thought. But as she opened the door, she spotted Tyler petting a stray Irish setter outside the sorority. Oh no, what's he doing here? Hi, gorgeous, Tyler said as Danny neared. Thought I'd walk you to class since you were busy last night and I didn't get to see you. Hi, Tyler, she grinned. We'd better hurry or I'll be late. Taking her hand, they started toward class. Hey, Danny! Holly called from behind. Wait up! Tyler and Danny stopped and turned to see Holly running to catch up, her ample chests bouncing. This isn't right, Danny thought. They shouldn't meet yet. I'll have to improvise. When Holly caught up, she gasped, "I thought we were walking to class together, Danny." "Sorry, Holly," Danny said. "Tyler showed up as I opened the door and asked to walk me. I forgot about us. I get forgetful when he's around." "I get it," Holly said, finally catching her breath. "Tyler, this is Holly Lochner, one of my sorority sisters," Danny said. "And Holly, this is my boyfriend, Tyler Smith." Holly and Tyler shook hands. "Pleased to meet you, Holly." "Likewise, Tyler." Holly stared at him, unsure why. "Do I know you? You seem familiar." "I don't think so," Tyler said quickly. "I'd remember meeting you." He shook his head at Danny. "Wait, Tyler," Danny said, pulling Holly aside. "What are you doing? Flirting with my boyfriend?" Holly looked confused. "I wasn't flirting. I just thought he looked familiar, but he said we'd never met. I must be mistaken. Besides, I've got my own boyfriend, Lori, and I'm happy." "Sorry, Holly," Danny said with a fleeting smile. "I get jealous about Tyler sometimes." "No problem. I'd feel the same if someone tried to muscle in on Lori. But remember, you're my sister. I'd never hurt you." Danny smiled, feeling better. Everything was still okay. "Hey, you two," Tyler called. "If we don't hurry, we'll be late." After waking in her own bed, Marcus was surprised to find girls' clothes hanging in her closet. Seeing her reflection in the dresser mirror, surprise turned to wonder. Why should she be surprised? She was a girl, after all. She dressed quickly in clothes she hoped showed off her figure, but frowned at her reflection. She wished she were taller. She wished her chests were bigger. She wished she could be more like her best friend, Stella. Waking in her own bed, Stella was surprised to see girls' clothes hanging in her closet. But looking into the full-length mirror on the closet door, surprise gave way to wonder. Why would a girl like her be shocked to find girls' clothes in her closet? She picked out clothes she hoped showed her best features and dressed quickly. But when she looked in the mirror, she frowned. She wished she were shorter. She wished her figure were curvier. She wished she could be more like her best friend, Marcus. Leaving their rooms at the same time, Stella and Marcus met in the hall. "Ready for class, Marcus?" "As ready as I'm going to be, Stella." They joked and giggled on the elevator ride down, annoying the other passengers. Neither realized they were headed to a different class than the one they'd enrolled in. Marcus and Stella arrived at their classroom just as Tyler, Danny, and Holly showed up. "Look, Marcus," Stella said, nodding toward Tyler and the two girls talking with him. "Those are Danny Morris and Holly Lochner, both Sigma Beta Beta sisters. We'll see them at the pledge party at the end of the week." "I'd definitely like to see a lot more of either one of them," Marcus said with a distinctly boyish tone. "I know exactly what you mean, Marcus," Stella agreed. For a moment, wide smiles spread across their faces, but then both girls' expressions turned serious. "Damn," Marcus muttered. "I wish my chests were as big as Holly's." "Damn," Stella echoed. "I wish I had a curvier figure like Danny's." Holly and Danny spotted Marcus and Stella looking their way. "Isn't that a couple of our pledges over there, Danny?" Holly asked. "Yeah," Danny replied. "That's Marcus Jordan and Stella Wilson." Tyler perked up at the names. Could those two be Mark Jordan and Steve Wilson in disguise? He hadn't seen them in days and wondered how their plan to sneak into the girls-only sorority party was progressing. But from where he stood, they looked like real girls, unless they'd found some way to magically transform themselves. Maybe, he thought, I should have told them about the wizard at the mall instead of keeping quiet. "Do you think either of them will be accepted into our sorority?" Holly asked, curious. "Very doubtful," Danny answered. "Neither meets our standards. They're kind of pretty, but kind of pretty doesn't cut it here. Marcus is too short and her chests aren't big enough, though she has a decent figure for her size. Stella's just a beanpole, with big chests, which is her only saving grace. I don't get why Sam and Charlie invited them at all. It's probably because Mrs. Hale told us to accept anyone who asked for an invite, Holly said. Didn't you hear the rumor about some frat pledges trying to crash our party? Tyler looked up, startled. That wasn't supposed to be common knowledge. Could there be a leak in his frat? Mark and Steve could be in serious trouble. Yeah, I heard the rumor, Danny said. But I don't see how letting girls like that in will stop frat guys from crashing our party. I don't get it either, Holly agreed. But Mrs. Hale must have her reasons. That must be them, Tyler thought as he watched the 4 girls enter the classroom. He sighed. I need to find a way to warn them, he muttered. But I have classes now. I wish I had a friend to keep an eye on them. When class ended, students streamed out. Holly quickly spotted Stacy Minwell and her boyfriend Tim Daniels in the crowd. If they were here, Lori couldn't be far. Scanning again, she found Lori nearby. She started toward him but froze when she saw Lynette with him. Holly looked at Danny. What's that bitch doing all over Lori? She asked, jealousy rising. I don't know, Danny grinned. She realized part of last night's spell was kicking in. Maybe we should find out ourselves. You're right, Holly said sharply. Leaving Danny behind, she marched over to Lori and Lynette. Hello, Lori, she said coldly. Hearing her, Lori turned. Seeing Holly with arms crossed, he smiled, completely captivated. Hello, beautiful. He slipped from Lynette's grasp and pulled Holly close, kissing her passionately. Lynette glared, confused. What was her boyfriend doing with this brazen, buxom stranger? Just what the hell do you? But dizziness suddenly swept over her. Feeling okay, Lynette? Danny asked, a knowing, slightly wicked smile on her lips. Lynette shook her head uncertainly. I think so. Don't you think Holly and Lori make the perfect couple? I suppose so, Lynette said, shaking her head. Just then, Jack Treadwell, the largest football lineman, came over and put his arm around Lynette's waist. You all right, gorgeous? He asked. Lynette bristled at his boldness but noticed he was big and kind of cute. Suddenly, her mood shifted. Smiling coyly, she replied, I'm great, Jack, especially now that you're here. She leaned into his embrace, and moments later, they were kissing like old flames. Danny watched, pleased with her plan's success. Another happy couple. She knew Lynette wouldn't stay single long. Glancing back at Lori and Holly still lost in their kiss, Danny smiled wider. Time to leave them be, I won't need to follow Holly around anymore. You know, Lori, I've been thinking about what we talked about the other day. And? With the Sigma Beta Beta pledge party tomorrow night, I think tonight would be perfect, Holly said with a playful smile. Don't you agree? You really mean it? Lori asked, surprised. Of course I mean it, silly, she replied. If I didn't, I wouldn't have said it. So when will you come by the sorority to pick me up? I have football practice after school, then some pledge activities at the frat, he explained. I should be done around 7 p.m. Why don't you come to the frat house instead? We can hang out in my room. Holly gasped playfully. But what about all those other guys in your fraternity? You don't need to worry about any of them, he said seriously. You'd be surprised at all the action at the frat house, girls getting laid almost every night. I'm not that kind of girl, she teased. You don't have to worry. No one there would ever see you that way. And if anyone did, they'd have to deal with me. Thanks, Lori, you're such a sweet knight in shining armor. She kissed him again. But I better hurry to class. I wish I could walk you there, Lori said wistfully. My next class is on the other side of campus. Don't worry about me, she cooed. I'll see you tonight, Tiger. As she strolled to class, her mind buzzed with thoughts of Lori, and she never realized she already knew exactly where to go. Stella and Marcus watched Holly and Lori's exchange with growing curiosity. At first, they wondered what trouble Holly had with Lori and his girlfriend Lynette. But as they kept watching, their memories shifted. Lynette was not, and probably never had been, Lori's girlfriend. Holly was really Lori's girl, just as she'd been since they first met. They also remembered Lynette, who went through guys faster than anyone they knew, was currently dating big lineman Jack Treadwell, and had been for weeks. Since Jack and Lori were friends and varsity teammates, they figured they'd mix them up at first, until their memories settled on how things really were. As Stella watched in disbelief, Marcus was approached by John Helton, a guy from their class. They'd met before, but John had no clue where, since all three were pledging the same frat. Marcus was glad John didn't recognize her, she'd have been embarrassed. John whispered something to Marcus that made her blush deeply. Slowly, he slipped his arm around her. Marcus showed no resistance. Stella thought she saw her friend plant a quick kiss on his cheek. "What's wrong with her?" Stella murmured. "You'd think she's enjoying being a girl." Her thoughts broke when a male voice said, "Hi, beautiful." She blushed. "Do you come here often?" the voice teased. That afternoon, Holly arrived 20 minutes late to cheerleading practice. Strangely, she couldn't remember where the field was, but once there, she realized it was right where it always had been. Even stranger, Susie acted like Stacy's second-in-command, though Holly knew that was supposed to be her role. Wondering if she'd been replaced, Holly approached Stacy, who was watching the others practice. "I'm glad you're here, Holly," Stacy said with relief. "Am I really that late?" 20 minutes isn't a big deal right now," Stacy replied. "But you know how much Susie wants your spot." "I know," Holly said. "But you wouldn't give it to her, right?" "How could you ask that?" Stacy sounded hurt. "You're my sister. We stand by each other. Don't you remember?" "Of course," Holly said. "I shouldn't have doubted you." "I'm sorry." "No need to worry," Stacy said firmly. "Now that you're here, Susie knows her place." Her grin stretched ear to ear. Late that afternoon, Marcus returned to the dorm to find Stella waiting. "We need to talk," Stella said urgently, guiding her inside. "I can't believe you agreed to go out with John Helton tonight." "Why not?" Marcus argued. "Free meal and movie, girls have it better than boys, Stell. We just look pretty, they pick up the check." She smiled. "Besides, he's kind of cute. Don't you think?" "But next week, he might be one of our frat brothers," Stella said. "What if he expects something in return for that free meal and movie?" "You worry too much," Marcus said. "If he asks for more, I'll just say no. I'm sure he'll understand and be a gentleman." "Are you really sure about this?" Stella asked, worried. "What if he tries to take what he wants anyway? He's bigger and stronger than you now. And this whole being a girl thing is getting old, it's worrying me more and more." She sank onto the edge of her bed. "Last week, whenever I saw a busted girl, I wanted to grab her, kiss her, be all over her. But today, I found myself jealous because her chests were bigger than mine. And, Marcus, I've started looking at guys. Weird daydreams, things I know I shouldn't think about, but I enjoy them anyway. And I wonder what guys think about me." She wiped a tear from her cheek. "Come on, Stell," Marcus said, sitting beside her and wrapping an arm around her shoulder. "It's not like I'm jumping into bed with him. It's just dinner and a movie." "I don't know, Marcus." "Please be careful tonight," Stella pleaded. "I'm really scared. We've been changing all the time since that spell. Look at you, you'd never have thought about dating a guy before you became a girl." "Neither would I, before. But now." A knock came at the door. "1 minute," Stella said, standing and wiping away her tears before opening it. Hi, Dan. Come in. The young man smiled warmly at Stella, who blushed faintly. Marcus, this is Dan Watkins, Stella said shyly. Dan, this is my best friend, Marcus Jordan. Nice to meet you, Marcus. Nice to meet you, Dan. Marcus gave Stella a knowing smile. It's not like that, Stella said defensively. Just dinner and a movie. Then we'll come straight back. Whatever you say, Marcus teased. Hope you two don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. She grinned. Dan looked confused. What? Oh, never mind. Just have a really good time, Marcus smiled, then turned back to Stella. Don't worry about me tonight, Stell. I'll be fine. I see you want some privacy, so I'm off to my room to wait for John. See you later. She winked and bounced down the hall. Did she mean any of that? Dan asked. Or is she always that weird with new people? She didn't mean anything, Stella rambled. She jokes a lot. She's only weird sometimes. Dan pulled Stella close and kissed her. Stella wanted to pull away. Dan was a guy, and she didn't want to be caught kissing him. But his lips lingered, and she relaxed, then worried she wasn't worried enough about it. Maybe Marcus was right, she thought, feeling her desire grow. Oh well. Maybe I worry too much. Cheerleading practice lasted longer than Holly expected, almost until 6:45 p.m. They practiced several cheers, which Holly felt she should have known already, but for some reason didn't remember until the first run-through. By the end, she knew them all forwards and backwards. Her sudden memory lapses worried her. Luckily, Stacy was a forgiving sorority sister, and Holly was relieved by her patience. Holly knew she had to get to Laurie's frat house before 7 p.m., she didn't want to keep him waiting tonight. Somehow she felt that if she wasn't there by 7, she wouldn't get to do what she'd dreamed about all day. No time to shower. She hoped Laurie wouldn't mind, or maybe he'd let her use his shower. Even better, maybe they could shower together. Laurie would probably like that, she certainly would. Holly arrived at the frat house just before 7. As she raised her fist to knock, the door flew open and 2 boys rushed past, leaving it ajar. Tyler came to close the door. Hi, Holly said, smiling. It's Tyler, right? She glanced back at the sprinting boys who nearly knocked her down. Flattered you remember, Tyler said. Glad they didn't run you over, they're in a hurry. Dan and John have hot dates tonight. Didn't say who, but they couldn't wait to leave. He turned. Hey, Laurie. Holly's here. Holly blushed as pledges passing by stared. He'll be right down, Tyler said. If I didn't know better, I'd think you two have something special planned. Laurie's been a little touchy and nervous tonight. Holly blushed deeper. Go inside and have a seat, Tyler said, checking his watch. I've got to get going, can't keep Danny waiting. Laurie won't be long. Thanks, Tyler, she smiled. Watching him leave, that strange feeling lingered, that she knew him from somewhere but couldn't place it. As she waited, some frat members and pledges passed by. They tried not to stare, but Holly's woman's intuition told her they were watching. It felt good to be noticed. Laurie came down the stairs wearing an old, worn-out pair of sweats. Hey, gorgeous, he said, planting a kiss on her lips. Hi yourself, handsome, she replied, a knowing smile hinting at what was to come. Practice ran way longer than usual tonight, so I had to rush over to avoid being late. Hope you don't mind that I didn't shower. That's fine, he said. My football practice ran late too, and I just finished up around here. Laurie gave her a mischievous grin. I've got an idea, how about we head to my room and take a shower together? That sounds like a lot of fun. Don't you think? That's a marvelous idea, Laurie, she smiled. Why didn't I think of that? He led her upstairs. Once inside, they quickly stripped, tossing their clothes into a shared pile. Lori admired Holly's unclothed form. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." Holly smiled warmly. "You didn't have to do anything special, lover. Just be you." They kissed deeply. Downstairs, the clock chimed 7 p.m. As their passionate embrace continued, neither noticed the changes overtaking them. Lori's height shrank as Holly grew taller. His short hair lengthened, cascading over his shoulders, while Holly's hair pulled back, cropped short. Lori's chest swelled, filling out his bra, while Holly's flattened. Lori's form softened, becoming curvier and more feminine, while Holly's grew firmer and more muscular. Now fully male, Holly took the more aggressive role, while Lori, transformed into a woman, became the more yielding partner. When they finally broke apart, neither noticed they'd become a completely different couple. Despite the spell's unpredictability, their plans for the evening remained intact, just with their new forms. "Ready for that shower, Lawrence?" Hollis asked, admiring his girlfriend's lean, sexy figure. "Have I told you lately how gorgeous you are, babe?" Lawrence blushed, then grinned devilishly. "I've been thinking, Hollis," she purred, snuggling close. "Why don't we save the shower for later? I don't think either of us are going anywhere tonight. And honestly, there's something else I'd rather be doing." His grin matched hers. "Sounds good to me." Hollis pulled her close and kissed her again, then effortlessly lifted Lawrence into his arms and carried her to the bed. That night, the shower never happened, and neither of them even thought about it again. John took Marcus to one of the city's finest, most exclusive restaurants. She'd been excited for a free meal but never imagined it would be at such a classy, and obviously expensive, place. She hadn't known John Helton was heir to a fortune far older than Midas's. John had never hinted at his wealth. She hadn't thought much of John back when she was Mark, but that was changing. After all, he was the one who had picked her up. The restaurant was incredible. It was beyond her means, and she'd never been there before. She made a mental note to return with Stella to explore the place, especially since the menu didn't list prices. But she didn't care, John was paying. To her surprise, John ordered a magnum of champagne. Marcus was amazed by the size when the waiter brought it on a cart. The waiter poured her glass. As she took her first sip, Marcus giggled, the bubbles tickled her nose. She smiled warmly at John. When she finished, the waiter promptly refilled her glass. She noticed the waiter refilled her glass more often than John's, but that didn't bother her. She was sure it was fine, smaller now than she'd been as Mark, but never one to be out drunk. She was briefly upset when her meal arrived in much smaller portions than expected. Having skipped lunch, she was very hungry and hoped John wasn't paying a fortune for such tiny servings. After washing down the meal with more champagne, Marcus felt lightheaded. She figured the small portions caused the buzz. When finished, John paid cash and left a generous tip. He stood beside Marcus. "Have you picked a movie, Marcus?" "Yes," she said. As he pulled out her chair, she wobbled. "Ooh." John steadied her by the waist. "You all right?" "I am now," she smiled, leaning into him. He kissed her softly. That was nice, she thought. John smiled. "Instead of a movie out, how about we head to my place? I've got some good videos I haven't watched." He kissed her lightly again, while his hand fondled one of her small chests. Marcus sighed. Between champagne and hormones, she'd do anything for John. "Sounds perfect." Lost in emotion, she kissed him. Arm in arm, they left the restaurant. Leaning gently into him, she thought, John really is wonderful. What she didn't see was the wide grin of another conquest on his face. Dan, without a fortune of his own, took Stella to a modest burger stand just across the street from the mall. It was nearly more than he could afford. It wasn't the fanciest dinner Stella had ever had, nor the cheapest. But as they ate, she quickly realized they shared more interests than she had ever imagined. They could have skipped the movie and talked all night instead. She wondered why she'd never noticed their common ground before, or paid much attention when she'd been Steve. One shared passion was horror movies, and it was no coincidence their chosen film fit that genre. The bimboid picnic on the planet of famished and often messy zombies was a low-budget, schlocky, blood-soaked B-movie, if not worse. Clearly made on a shoestring, or maybe the budget was literally strings. But Stella and Dan loved it. As Stella cringed, Dan tried to comfort her, and before long, his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. She clutched his free arm, occasionally burying her face in his chest. Then he leaned over and kissed her. At first, surprise and shock hit her, but they faded quickly. She decided not to worry about kissing a guy, leaning back and returning his kiss. They smiled. Dan's free hand began lightly exploring her chests. Her mind urged her to stop him, but her body said otherwise. Hell, this felt too good to stop. With no protest from Stella, Dan's touch grew bolder and more insistent. Her growing excitement pushed aside any worries about being with a boy. I think we should go back to my place, Stell, he suggested. Between breaths, she answered, if you think that's best, Dan. We don't want to put on a show for the whole town, he said softly, kissing her eager lips. Do we? The rest of the town can go to hell, she thought. Of course not, she whispered back. With hormones raging, she kissed him passionately. Still in each other's arms, they rose slowly. As credits rolled on the screen, they left the dark theater arm in arm. Stella didn't see Dan's wide, anticipatory grin. Alexandria woke as morning sunlight crept through the window. She lay on her back in someone's bed, Lawrence Miller's arm draped gently over hers as she slept soundly in the crook of Alexandria's arm. Not knowing where she was, Alexandria looked around to get her bearings. She soon recognized Lori Miller's room, though she couldn't recall when or how she'd been there before. If the sun was up, it had to be well past 2 a.m. That raised some questions. Why was Lawrence still Lawrence and not Lori? And since she didn't like girls that way, why were they in bed together? Careful not to wake Lawrence, she slipped from the bed, though her movements felt strange. Approaching the mirror, she gasped at her reflection, jaw dropping in shock. What had happened to her? She was several inches taller than she remembered, with a noticeably thinner waist and wider hips. Her hair flowed longer and redder than ever, swishing across her bare backside. And she had grown mammoth chests. The changes made her look incredibly hot, but she wondered when, why, and how it had happened. Lawrence stirred. Holly? She asked. Holly? Alexandria decided to humor her. Yes, Lawrence, she replied in a lighter, sexier voice, surprising even herself until she remembered the mirror image. Suddenly, memories flooded back. She'd needed a place to stay, so Tyler convinced his insanely jealous girlfriend, Dani Morris, to put her up in the Sigma Beta Beta sorority. While settling in, Dani, several other girls, and an ancient white-haired woman, probably a gypsy, arrived dressed for a slumber party. The old woman said they'd play a game requiring imagination. It sounded silly then, but as the girls suggested changes to her body, her form actually transformed to match their wishes. Then they told her she was really Holly Lochner and that Lori Miller was her boyfriend. As a result, she became Holly Lochner, and Alexandria Collins, the real her, was removed from reality. She must have entered the fraternity house before 7 p.m. last night. Waking with Lawrence, she guessed she'd been with Lori when they probably switched forms again, Lori becoming Lawrence. But if she had changed back, even to the new version of herself, why did Lori remain Lawrence? That didn't make sense. And why hadn't she fully returned to Alexandria? She supposed she'd have to get used to being called Holly. If Lawrence called her that, no one else would likely remember Alexandria Collins anymore. Lawrence broke into Alexandria's thoughts. What are we doing here, Holly? She asked, concern growing. You don't remember? No, not really, Lawrence replied hesitantly. I was supposed to meet my boyfriend here last night, but he never showed. That struck Alexandria as odd. Lawrence didn't remember their night either. In the past, she'd noticed that when you changed back to normal, your memories shifted. If you'd done something to someone, you remembered it as if that person had done it to you, keeping your perspective consistent. I don't remember why we're here either, Lawrence, Alexandria admitted. But I think something strange is happening. Shouldn't we be heading back to the sorority, Holly? Lawrence asked. We could have been here all night. Mrs. Hale and the other sisters must be worried. Unless they're too busy prepping for tonight's pledge party. Alexandria's eyes widened in surprise. The last she'd known, the party was days away. That meant she must have been Holly for several days now. But I can fake my way through any problems, she thought. Unlike Lawrence, I'm still the girl I've always been. A stray thought crossed her mind. Had Mark and Steve managed to get invited? Then she frowned, realizing she didn't know who Mark and Steve were, nor how they could be allowed into a girls-only party. Eager to leave, Alexandria and Lawrence grabbed their clothes from the floor and quickly dressed in their cheerleader uniforms, their names embroidered above their left chests. Alexandria cautiously opened Laurie's door, peeked out at the empty hallway, then she and Lawrence slipped out quietly and made their way to the fraternity's front door. Unbeknownst to them, someone was watching. Tyler observed the two cheerleaders slipping out. He wondered which of his brothers had hosted Holly Lochner and Lawrence Miller last night. He smiled as the door closed behind them, hoping whichever brother had been lucky enjoyed being with those two stunning girls they'd become. With tears streaming freely, Marcus sat on Stella's bed, dejected, as Stella tried to comfort her. You were right, Stell, Marcus sobbed. John did want something in return. And I didn't even get to see a free movie. She sniffled. I can't believe I got tipsy on just a little champagne. When I was Mark, I could drink anyone under the table. You're smaller now, Stella reminded her. And your metabolism's changed. Changed is an understatement, Marcus said. John knew exactly what to do to stir me up. Between the champagne, his kissing and touching, and my raging girl hormones, I was putty in his hands. I don't know how other girls keep control around guys like him. Maybe it's something girls learn growing up, Stella mused. With the spell, we skipped all that learning to be girls stuff and jumped straight into dating. It's like diving into the deep end before you know how to swim. Maybe, Marcus smiled weakly. I'm glad you're my friend, Stell. Anyone else would be all I told you so, but not you. I don't have any reason to say I told you so, Marcus, Stella frowned. It was just as bad for me. At the movies, Dan kept touching my chests. I didn't want him to, but it felt so good I couldn't tell him to stop. The more he did it, the better it felt. By the time we left, I was as excited as hell. Did you sleep with him? Marcus asked. Did you? Stella replied. Both shook their heads sadly. I don't even know why I did, Stell, Marcus sighed. And to make it worse, after he was done, he told me to leave. Then he said if I'd been blonde, blue-eyed, with bigger chests, maybe he'd consider another date. Tears fell. Boys. I'll never understand them. Stella stared. That's amazing, Marcus. Dan did almost the same after we. I couldn't believe it when he said he was leaving. I was having a great time. I thought he was too. They hugged, tears falling from reddened eyes. But I'll say this, Marcus, Stella said angrily, I'm glad the Sigma Beta Beta pledge party is tonight. I'm sick of being a girl. Sick of dealing with all this crap from boys. I'll be glad to be me again tomorrow. Me too, Stell, Marcus agreed. This hasn't gone how I expected. I wish I'd never volunteered us. It hasn't been worth the hassle. I know exactly what you mean, Stella nodded. They hugged again, tears streaming down both faces. As Alexandria and Lawrence headed back to the sorority, many students, male and female, familiar and strangers, greeted them. To these old friends, they were Holly Lochner and Lawrence Miller. To Lawrence, these were indeed old friends. But Alexandria found it strange to talk with people she didn't know. She watched Lawrence, who acted as if everything was normal, and mirrored her responses. A few guys she'd never met tried to hit on them, offering help since they knew both girls were between boyfriends. They were right, at the moment, neither had a boyfriend. Laurie, who was supposed to be Holly's boyfriend, no longer existed, having been transformed into Lawrence. And Lawrence, just a full-time girl for a few hours, couldn't have a boyfriend yet. As they walked, Alexandria thought about last night. What had those girls done to her? Why? At least she remained a girl. Unlike poor Laurie, who'd been turned into Lawrence. But maybe Lawrence was luckier. She knew who she was and might never remember being Laurie again. Suddenly, a chilling thought swept through her mind. Lawrence doesn't remember being Laurie at all, she realized. What if I'm not really Alexandria? What if I only believe I am? What if I'm actually a boy, just like Lawrence, and simply can't recall it? She winced at the thought. It was terrifying. But it explained so much she shouldn't know, like all the strange details about Tyler's fraternity. Why did I know that people inside the frat house can have their gender changed after 7 p.m.? Why didn't any of this freak me out? And how did I know Lawrence was really Laurie when no one else did? As they reached the sorority, Alexandria's thoughts were interrupted by an Irish setter leaping up to her. "What's up, girl?" she asked. The dog whined in response. "Are you trying to tell me something?" she questioned. The dog barked once. Just then, the sorority doors swung open. Randy stepped out and spotted the stray dog. "Beat it, Mutt," she shouted, and the dog darted away. "What was that about, Randy?" Alexandria asked curiously. "I'm not sure, Holly," Randy replied. "That setter's a stray who's been hanging around the sorority for days, like she's waiting for someone. She barks and growls whenever any of us sisters approach, and she even tried to bite Mrs. Hale yesterday. You're the only sister she's let near her." "That's strange," said Alexandria. "I don't know anyone who owns a setter like that. But she's beautiful. I bet she'd make a great mascot for the house." "Maybe," Randy said uncertainly. "But first, she'd have to stop barking and growling at us." She looked around, but the dog was gone. "We'll talk more later, Holly. Right now, you and Lawrence need to get inside. We've got a party to prepare for." Inside, Alexandria and Lawrence immediately saw their sisters busy getting ready for the pledge party. "Holly!" "Lawrence!" exclaimed CJ. "Glad you could make it back to help." Danny looked at Alexandria briefly, then shifted her gaze to Lawrence. She said nothing but smiled knowingly. Alexandria noticed the mysterious smile. "Am I imagining things?" she wondered. "Or does Danny know more than she lets on?" "You two should go upstairs and get changed to help," CJ instructed. "We're almost done, so it won't take long. I've assigned you both as official greeters and invitation checkers tonight. Since you weren't here earlier, I hope that's okay." Both girls nodded. "But be extra vigilant for party crashers. Mrs. Hale warned us that a couple of fraternity pledges might try to sneak in." "You've got to be kidding, CJ," Lawrence said with mock horror. "How could any boy get past us without us knowing?" Again, Danny smiled, deepening Alexandria's suspicion that she knew something. "Come on, Lawrence, let's get changed and help out." "Okay, Holly," Lawrence replied. "We'll be back in a few." As they left, Alexandria guessed the boys Mrs. Hale warned about had to be Mark and Steve. She hoped their disguises were good. But again, she wondered who Mark and Steve were, since she had no memory of them. Maybe Tyler told them about the old man after all, she thought. Then she frowned again. "What old man?" Unseen by the departing girls, Danny smiled once more. She hoped Lori and Holly had enjoyed themselves last night, especially since it had been Lori's last time as a man. And since Lori had appeared with Holly as Lawrence Miller the cheerleader, Danny was sure Holly must now be pregnant. She was proud of how cleverly she'd slipped that into Ms. Helgard's spell, making the girl and boy lovers, but when the boy made love to the girl, she'd become pregnant. The boy, transformed into another girl, would also become the best friend of the girl he impregnated. Everything is going perfectly, Danny murmured. Standing before her full-length mirror, Stella smoothed the knee-length skirt she'd chosen. Her stringy light brown hair fell over her shoulders. She stared at her enormous chest straining against her simple peasant blouse. Disappointed with her appearance, she shook her head as if it might erase the plainness. If this is how I looked last night, she thought, no wonder Dan left early. If not for these huge tits, she sighed, I wouldn't have any figure at all. She slowly lifted one chest, then frowned at her reflection holding it. You look like a boy with big tits, she scolded her image. But the harsh words made her cringe. What the hell is wrong with you? A sharp knock interrupted her. Opening the door, she found Marcus standing there, dressed in a short, loose skirt and pullover sweater. Come in, Stella said softly. You look, nice, Marcus said. Stella gave a weak smile. So do you, Marcus. Come on, Stell, Marcus said, sliding her hand through her hair to tuck stray strands behind her ear. You've got to shake off this weird funk. Neither of us really wants to join this sorority, remember? By this time tomorrow, we'll be back to our usual male selves. Just imagine the looks on our fraternity brothers' faces when we tell them every last detail of what went down at the Sigma Beta Beta pledge party. But what if the sorority girls actually decide to keep us, just as we are? Stella fretted. What if they let us join? Marcus laughed. I don't think that's likely, Stell. Have you really looked at those girls? Compared to them, we're nothing but plain teenagers. Even if we combined your chests with mine, we'd still have smaller chests than their smallest sister. We don't need to worry about getting accepted, we're mercy pledges. We're just not Sigma Beta Beta material. Then why did they send us invitations in the first place? Stella asked. They didn't have to. If we're not their type, why waste time on us? I don't know, Stell. Maybe we'll find out tonight. Do you think they suspect we're really boys? Doubt it. How could they? We don't look like boys. And if they followed us last night, they'd know both of us got taken by guys. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Stella answered bitterly. But you know, Marcus? I'm worried. I hope we don't regret all this. Lawrence and Alexandria took their posts at the table just inside the door. Every pledge had to present their invitation to one of them before receiving a name tag and entering the party. Alexandria marveled at the endless stream of beautiful, buxom co-eds flowing through the door. She couldn't remember ever seeing so many well-developed young women on campus. Then a nagging thought returned, was she really a boy? Marcus and Stella arrived together and shyly said, almost in unison, Hello, Holly. Hello, Lawrence. Do you have your invitations? Lawrence asked coolly. Of course, Marcus replied. Stella nodded. We wouldn't be here without ours. They fumbled through their purses, then found their invitations simultaneously and handed them over. Lawrence examined the invitations carefully, then looked at the girls. Holly, do we have name tags for Marcus Jordan and Stella Wilson? They're the last two in the box, Alexandria said, pulling out the tags. Marcus Jordan, she called. Marcus took her name tag, and Alexandria handed the other to Stella. Thank you, they said together before joining the pledges. How do you think they managed to get invited, Holly? Lawrence asked. It says here Charlie and Sam gave them their invitations. I don't know, Alexandria said. They don't look like they belong with the rest of the girls tonight. They must be Mark and Steve. But she quickly dismissed the thought. Why do I keep thinking those girls could be boys? That's impossible. They're far from average for this sorority, Lawrence said coldly. I doubt either one will make it past the first cut. Probably not, Alexandria agreed. But Sam and Charlie must have had a reason to invite them. Didn't Mrs. Hale say some fraternity pledges would try to sneak in? But those two are definitely girls. If they really were boys, Tyler must have sent them to see that old man at the mall. But thinking about the old man made her frown. What is it about him I'm supposed to remember? Well, Lawrence, that's everyone on my list, Alexandria said, closing the door. No one else gets in tonight. That means it's time to mingle with our guests, Lawrence said as they stepped into the crowd. All the pledges have arrived, Mrs. Hale. Excellent, the house mother said. Thank you, Danny. But they're all girls, Mrs. Hale, Danny said. No boys downstairs. They must have chickened out. Mrs. Hale smiled. No, they didn't chicken out, Danny. As expected, 2 boys got invitations, and they were admitted. She smiled at Danny's shocked face. At first, I needed only 1, but as things unfolded, 2 turned out to be the perfect number. Danny looked puzzled. But who? She asked. Send Leanne to find Stella Wilson, Mrs. Hale commanded. Tell her I want to see her. Stella Wilson? Danny repeated incredulously. You mean that walking stick with the huge chests? Exactly. She's really a boy? Danny asked, doubtful. With those enormous chests, I find it hard to believe. There are more unbelievable things in life than you realize, my dear, Mrs. Hale smiled. Now hurry, send Leanne to fetch her. I have many girls to interview tonight. Stella will be first. And I must deal with her before attending to the other boy in our midst. Leanne descended the stairs unnoticed, carefully observing each pledge and memorizing the names on their name tags. When she spotted Stella, she stopped. Excuse me, Stella. Mrs. Hale wants to see you in her room. A hush fell over the room as whispered thoughts echoed, it has begun. Why? Stella asked nervously. I don't know, Leanne replied. I was just told to find you and bring you to her. Okay, but you'll have to lead me. I don't know where her room is. That's the point, Leanne said. None of the pledges know where Mrs. Hale's room is. That's why I was sent. Marcus watched as her friend was led away. What does Mrs. Hale want with Stell? She asked nearby girls. Don't fret, Calandra said. She's probably going to tell her she doesn't meet the standards to be a Sigma Beta Beta. Yeah, Randy added. It's just the start of the cut. She won't be the only weed pulled from this garden tonight. I'd be surprised if she's the only one, Melina said. Now, girls, CJ interjected sharply, fixing Marcus with a look. We shouldn't mock those less fortunate. Marcus frowned. Stella probably wouldn't learn what else awaited her tonight. The burden of gathering intel now rested on Marcus. She hoped she could last long enough to get the information they needed to get both of them into the fraternity. Leanne knocked on the door. Come in, a woman's voice called. Leanne opened the door and stepped inside, followed by a nervous Stella. Leanne, Mrs. Hale said. You may return to the party for now. Then turning to Stella, I'm Mrs. Hale, the housemother. You must be Stella Wilson. She paused, letting Leanne leave and close the door. Or perhaps you'd prefer I call you by your real name, Steve? What? Stella gasped. I merely asked if you want me to call you Steve, Mrs. Hale said with a grin. A simple question. But my name's Stella, not Steve, Stella stammered, startled that this woman knew her secret but unwilling to admit it. Have it your way, Stella, Mrs. Hale said. But tell me, have you enjoyed being a girl this past week? Sometimes casting that spell from the old book brings side effects, sometimes predictable, sometimes not. What spell? Stella asked, voice trembling. What book? Oh, Stella, Mrs. Hale said, I enjoy games as much as the next sorceress, but this one is getting old fast. The spell your friend Mark Jordan recited from the old book given to him by the gypsy down in the old part of town. You know the one, I believe you used it yourself to transform Mark into Marcus, just before he turned Steve into you. She smiled. How do you know all this? Stella asked, fear creeping in, abandoning her facade. Somehow this old woman knew everything. I have my sources, Stella, Mrs. Hale replied with a smile that made Stella shiver. Have you noticed any unusual side effects? Things you wouldn't have done as Steve, or thoughts you've never had? Not that I know of, Stella lied. What kind of side effects? Mrs. Hale smiled again, sensing Stella's discomfort. Oh, just little things. Maybe noticing other girls' chests, wondering why yours aren't as big, feeling the urge to be sexier, maybe even lusting after guys, or possibly, getting laid. The possibilities are endless, dear. No way, Stella said, horrified. I haven't felt any of that. Really, Stella? Mrs. Hale said. Lying to me isn't very smart. She waved her hand. Suddenly, Stella felt a strange tingling spreading rapidly from her chest through her whole body. The sensation was familiar, but she couldn't place it. When it passed, she stared at Mrs. Hale in near disbelief. What did you do? She asked, clutching her throat, hearing the sensual tone in her own voice. Nothing much, Mrs. Hale said smugly. Now, come look in my mirror. I think you'll be astonished, and maybe very happy, by what you see. Astounded barely scratched the surface. Stella stared in disbelief at her reflection. The girl looking back was stunning. A slender waist framed full, wide hips, curves in all the right places. Most importantly, she was no longer the skinny rail with disproportionately large chest she'd been when she first entered. Her chests, once her only notable feature, had grown even larger, now rivaling those of the other girls downstairs. Her previously straggly light brown hair had transformed into a thick, silky, and deep dark cascade. Even her clothes had changed. The knee-length skirt had been replaced by a tight miniskirt that showcased her exquisitely shaped, unmistakably feminine legs. The simple peasant blouse was gone, swapped for a halter top that revealed her sexy waist and emphasized her newly enhanced bust. Her face had been reshaped, too. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. I'm gorgeous, she mused, striking a sensual pose before the mirror. Mrs. Hale smiled knowingly. I'd bet Danny Watkins never would have thought to leave you last night if you'd looked like this. You're right, Mrs. Hale, Stella replied. He'd be a fool, a laughingstock, to let a girl like me slip away. She turned back to her reflection, captivated by her new appearance, then suddenly frowned and faced Mrs. Hale again. What have you done to me? This isn't really me. I'm not a girl, I'm a boy? Mrs. Hale finished for her, laughing softly. Don't make me laugh, Stella. Just look at yourself. If I took you outside this sorority and asked the first 100 people what your sex was, how many do you think would say male? Stella was stunned. After another look in the mirror, tears welled up. None, she whispered. But I don't want to be this girl, Mrs. Hale. I just want to be me. And so you shall, my dear, Mrs. Hale replied, a wicked glint in her eyes. You shall. Now turn and look in the mirror. Compelled beyond resistance, Stella slowly faced her reflection. Close your eyes, Stella, Mrs. Hale instructed. But remember everything you've seen. Obediently, Stella closed her eyes. Listen closely, Mrs. Hale said. Everything I now tell you is absolute truth. Your name is Alicia Elizabeth Morgan. You are a girl, Alicia, and you have always been one. You have never been a boy, Alicia, nor have you ever wished to be. Everyone who has ever known you, except me and, for a time, Marcus or Mark, remembers you only as Alicia. To everyone else, no one named Stella Wilson or Steve Wilson has ever existed. You were born female, Alicia. Raised as a girl. You no longer possess memories of being anyone but Alicia Morgan. You are a beautiful, sexy young woman, and you know it. You like boys, a lot. You know exactly what you want from every boy in your life. Alicia smiled, her grin widening. Open your eyes, Alicia, Mrs. Hale commanded. Alicia opened her eyes, momentarily confused, but it quickly faded as she realized where she was and who she was. Are you all right, Alicia? Mrs. Hale asked. I'm fine, Alicia replied. Better than I've felt all week. Though I must have dozed off for a moment. You only closed your eyes briefly, dear, Mrs. Hale said. Do you know why I called you in? No, not really, Alicia answered anxiously. First, I want to congratulate you on becoming the newest sister of Sigma Beta Beta. Really? Alicia gushed, excitement flooding her. Since I was the first you called, I feared I hadn't made the cut. I've been so worried you wouldn't accept me. Why wouldn't we, Alicia? Mrs. Hale asked. You're absolutely perfect for Sigma Beta Beta. Thank you, Mrs. Hale, Alicia babbled. I can't believe I'm really in. I'm so thrilled. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. But there is a small assignment for you. All ready? Alicia squealed. What is it? You know I'll do anything to support my house and sisters. I'd like you to entertain and show a guest around, a guest arriving soon. That's all? Alicia asked, almost disappointed. A sharp knock sounded at the door. Yes? Mrs. Hale called. CJ entered, leading a robed, blindfolded figure. She smiled briefly at Alicia. The guest has arrived, Mrs. Hale. Excellent, CJ. Mrs. Hale walked over to the figure. You may return to the party. After CJ left, Mrs. Hale carefully removed the blindfold. Thank you for coming and informing me about the two boys pledging your fraternity who planned to sneak into our party. She smiled at Tim Geller. But as planned, it all unfolded perfectly. By tomorrow morning, you'll only remember it as the little initiation prank you intended. What do you mean two boys? The fraternity president asked. There was only one, Mark Jordan. Did he get invited? He's downstairs at the party right now. Tim smiled eagerly. Since I'm here, should I assume you'll fulfill your part of the bargain now? Growing nervous, he began pacing. Of course, Mr. Geller, she said, smiling in a way that didn't ease his nerves. I always keep my end of a bargain. Alicia, come meet Tim, the guest I mentioned earlier. Danny looked puzzled. But who? She asked. Send Leanne to find Stella Wilson, Mrs. Hale commanded. Tell her I want to see her. Stella Wilson? Danny repeated in disbelief. You mean that walking stick with the huge tits? Exactly. She's really a boy? Danny said incredulously. With those massive chests, it's hard to believe she could be a boy. There are many things in life less unbelievable than you might think, my dear, Mrs. Hale smiled. Now hurry, send Leanne to fetch her. I have many interviews tonight. Stella will be first. I must deal with her before attending to the other boy among us.